ZombieTech. Welcome to ZombieTech, a forum for engineers, scientists, and inventors to ponder on the technologies needed to survive the inevitable zombie apocalypse.
She's Eddie.
He's Whisker.
And I'm Dave Jones from the EEV blog.
Yeah,
sorry, did I jump the gun there?
Oh, it's fine. Dave, for anyone that doesn't know, which is probably not too many people listening to this show, Dave is one of the few people in Australia who's managed to make a career out of being a video blogger. That's no small
I have.
feat.
That's scary.
How's that been going?
Excellent. Ever since I got the ask from Altium, I've been going full time at it, and it does pay the bills.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I think it's fantastic. I wouldn't want to go back to a 9 to 5. Who would want to go back to a 9 to 5 job if you're doing what your hobby you enjoy and it actually, it actually pays the bills? Why would you want to go back?
Right. So what's the good, the bad, the ugly of it? Of being a full-time self-employed podcaster.
Yeah, I'm even more lazy than I was before I did it, because it's just so easy to fall into the trap of staying in your pajamas until midday and just generally not doing much at all and just doing the minimum amount of effort possible.
Sure.
So that, I guess, is one of the downsides, is that you don't feel as urgent a need to get a new blog out because you've only got a couple of hours each week to work on it or something like that. So
right.
When you're full time, your mind just wanders onto other things, projects and ideas and whatnot, and just generally wasting your life on the time sink that is the internet.
Fair enough.
I'm sure you're no doubt familiar with that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we produce 2 video episodes a week, an hour-long zombie tech each week, an original song once a week, and every single day Addie manages to put up a very long technical blog post. So we completely understand how you have to really be that the only person that's gonna make sure that you get your job done is you.
Yep. And you've got to have a schedule, I think. So I'm looking into trying to convince myself that that's a good idea, because I know it is, but actually convincing yourself to do it and stick to it. Like, okay, I'm going to do 1 product review a week, 1 product review / teardown a week. I'm going to do 1 rant a week and, a tutorial or some other thing every couple of weeks or,
Sure.
just something. So...
Well, and you put a lot of work into your reviews. I mean, I was just looking at some of them, and 30 minutes of editing or of content that's been edited, uploaded, rendered, all that would take an eon.
Oh,
it just takes forever.
It does. Well, some of them are over an hour.
Yeah.
And they would have probably one of those 1 hour, one of those big reviews or one of those like a multimeter shootout or something would have probably 200 individually shot clips.
Right.
So, I've got to edit I've got to edit 200 clips. It's just, it's crazy. It takes forever.
It just sounds time consuming.
Yeah. Which a lot of people find, a lot of people are surprised by that. They think, how hard can it be to, actually do a video? But it's a phenomenal amount of work. It really is.
Only people who have not tried to do it on a regular schedule feel that way about it, because the rendering alone will kill you.
Well, the good thing about the rendering is that you can do stuff in the background. It's not like you've got to sit there and watch it render. So you hit the go button and, 4 hours later you come back and it's done,
Right.
So at least you can do stuff in the background, but yep.
So
then you've got to upload to YouTube, which can take...
Oh, that's got to be a lot more difficult for you than us, considering you've got to go through the tiny little fiber optic pipeline that shoots between Australia and the Google servers.
Yeah, isn't it amazing? It all goes down, we've got don't quote me on this, but it's 4 or half a dozen little fibers for the whole country. It's just phenomenal.
Jeez.
And all of the interweb flows through that. It's just, and everything else, and phone calls, and God knows what.
It's
Crazy.
amazing that it works at all, but it would be nice if they could lay down maybe 600 or 700 more of those cables.
Right. Yeah, but it's like the bottlenecks are in the individual sites, as I've found out now. You can have the widest pipe to the internet you like, and, the slowest common denominator is the one that's going to kill you, which is the site hosting. Because I'm now on a dedicated server. I was just my forum alone was just killing my server. So I had to get this, real expensive dedicated server just to run the forum and the blog. It's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, we were talking to Chris Gamble last week after we finished recording his episode of ZombieTech, and he was asking if we were going to do like more publicity and whatnot for the ZombieTech, a page just for it, and try to get it out there more. And right now it's sort of like a community thing, and people in the know how to get it. They know how to find it. They
right.
They know all of the guests, and I'm a little bit nervous to work on making it really, really popular, because I don't really feel like hitting that wall where you've got so many people trying to download something that you can no longer get away with hosting it on a inexpensive or free
little $5
service.
a month server. Yeah, exactly.
It's not a bad wall to hit, though.
It's not a bad. I was going to say I wouldn't be afraid of that wall at all. I wouldn't hold it back.
It's not a bad wall to hit if you're monetized when you hit it.
If you're monetized, true, but if you got to spend a couple $100 on a server, or some Amazon cloud hosting or something like that, then it can be. Yeah,
right now.
But then again, I wouldn't worry about that. I would just do it.
I'd like to see it happen. I'd like to see it happen.
Yep.
If we were to hit that wall this week, it would pretty much eat up the budget from all the other monetization we've done.
Right.
So we'd be back to zero.
Oh, boy. Well, for a long time, I was hosting everything on one $5 a month share server. My streaming video, the amp hour audio, the blog, the forum, everything. And it surprisingly held up. It was really amazing. So...
And what
I don't know.
What do you use now?
I am using a dedicated server, so I've got my own box in some underground fortress complex somewhere in Texas, with guards out the front with shotguns. And,
I'm sure.
And that just runs the forum and the blog, the actual WordPress blog website. But I still host my video files, because I've got a podcast video version, which, people with, all these yuppies with iPhones and stuff like that watch it. Real nerds don't use iPhones.
He loves you guys, though.
Right. They use Android, don't they? Anyway, so I host my video files just on that separate. It's another shared server. It's like a $5 a month, So that's just using that, plus a lot of my other websites as well. Some of them are high bandwidth, some are low bandwidth. And then the Amp Hour has its own server, which has just died in the arse last week.
That happened right before we were getting ready to record with Chris. I'm sure right before we started, he was running around crazy trying to figure it out.
And he was going ape shit, was he? As we say here.
Yep.
Sorry for using the S word on
That's
your
okay.
esteemed show.
That's okay.
Or is that allowed? What are the boundaries?
On iTunes, we're considered clean, so,
Right, okay.
Thanks, Dave.
The occasional S words.
There goes that.
Stick it to the man. Come on.
Rebel.
Absolutely.
So
So it died. So I had to temporarily host the MP3, the latest one, on my dedicated server. And we're going to have to look in and see what happens from there. So it's not good.
Yeah.
Now,
all up, I've got 4 servers now.
The hosting that you get out of the bunker in Texas, does that come with like a zombie insurance policy, or?
Well, it comes with alligators, because it's hostgator.com.
Yeah.
So I guess it's guarded by alligators, which are going to eat up zombies, right? I don't know. What's the rule with
I guess that would make
that?
sense.
Does
that would make
alligator
sense.
beat zombie?
I think so, yeah.
Right. Because zombie
yeah.
can't turn an alligator into a zombie, so unless you get zombie alligators.
Oh, unless it crosses species.
That would be bad.
That would be kind of bad.
That's just making things worse.
But then
Except we've crossed over into the animal kingdom, right?
Yeah.
Now, let's see. If they've got a moat around your server hosting facility and those alligators are turned into zombies, that's pretty much going to keep anybody out of there.
That's true. So I guess either whether or not they're zombies or not, it'll still be protected.
Well, the machines themselves can turn into zombies, can't they? Isn't that quite common?
AI.
These servers turn into what they call them zombies, don't they?
Yeah.
A zombie server, which is...
Right. We haven't covered that kind of zombie on this show, but considering it's ZombieTech, I guess...
you probably should. Yeah. Your server could be a zombie right now and you wouldn't know it.
Shit. I mean...
All right. Now see what you started, Dave? I'm going to have to go through here and I'm going to have to bleep you two out. Making more work for me.
Awesome. You have to do some post-editing.
First episode I'm going to have to edit, thanks to you two being...
Bleep.
You're welcome.
But
yes, it could be. That's what they try and all these, security companies and security experts try and strike fear. Your machine, your home computer could be a zombie right now and you don't even know it. Buy our, $100 a month antivirus software. And
it can stare at you the entire time. No, that's not creepy.
I think folks who understand how technology works really need to make a better effort explaining to friends and family who may not necessarily get it that it's very important to configure your router correctly, because then you're not going to do the whole zombie thing,
Right. I should do that. My router's just out of the box, I think.
Well, out of the box...
I've changed his password on it, but apart from that, I'm not penguin geeky enough to know how to... I just haven't bothered to look into it.
As long as it's not set to, NAT or something, it should be fine.
I have no idea what you just said.
Nice.
I don't either.
Electronics.
So let me ask, now that you're an independent agent...
Yes.
For, your reviews and your teardowns and your rants and all that stuff, is it easier for you to be... more objective, so to speak? Not that you weren't, but say while you were working for Altium,
I've seen some of the stuff Dave has done to things that have been sent to him. He is most definitely objective, if anything.
Well, I know,
yes.
I know, but there's certain things there's a conflict of interest if you're working, when you were at Altium working on your projects.
For a normal human being, I think that would be something that you could bring up, but I've seen the look of glee in his eyes when he drops things on the floor.
Or sheer anger when one of them tried to kill me.
What?
Yeah, this multimeter blew. I was holding it in my hand and it actually blew up. I had it for review and the damn thing blew up.
That's not good.
Yeah.
Folks, don't get this one. Oh my
And so
gosh.
in a flight of rage, I went out to the lab. I was inside at the time. I was measuring a PowerPoint inside, in the kitchen, and bang, blew up in my hand. So in my fit of rage, I grabbed my camera, ran out to the lab, and filmed a very emotive response video. So
it blew up.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was mains voltage that you were checking?
That was mains voltage, yeah.
And out there, mains is what, 240?
240, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, technically they lowered it. It was 240, but now the standard dropped it down to 230 or something. But whatever.
What's the significance of that? So do you find yourself being more objective, freer to say whatever?
Well, that's an interesting question. There's two parts to it. You talked about Altium.
Yeah.
Altium is always... I never did anything very few things actually related to my work at Altium. Mm-hmm. There are the occasional blog. If I had some interesting troubleshooting thing at work, I'd talk about it without mentioning Altium. So it was kind of just a general troubleshooting kind of thing or something. Mm-hmm. So that was fine, but I never talked about FPGAs, which was one of my jobs at Altium. So that was a bit of conflict of interest there. I never talked about PCB software because obviously that was a conflict of interest with Altium.
Right.
So, yeah, I just made the rule that I just didn't talk about those kind of things, anything related to Altium, because Altium were watching.
Sure.
So,
sure.
Yes.
So then what about now?
Altium had this marketing company that, one of these search engine, one of these companies who you pay huge dollars to, and they, scour the web for any mention of Altium, and then funnel it to you. So as soon as I mention Altium on my forum or something, it would end up on the desk of somebody at Altium straight away. So,
Dave, let's talk about
they
this
did
post
a few
here.
times. So that's what led on my forum to me actually hiding the word Altium. I actually, I set one of those filters to actually obfuscate the word. So I replaced Altium with like an exclamation mark or something, I with an exclamation mark, so it wouldn't show up in their automated zombie bot searches.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
but apart from product reviews, which is the other aspect, no, because Altium has nothing to do with that. So I've always been independent. I've always spoken my mind. Mm-hmm. So that hasn't changed.
So how about now? Like, are you more willing to address Altium products or like PCB software, that type of thing?
Oh,
now
sure,
that you're not...
definitely. I'm free to do that now.
Okay.
Technically, I was free to do it before. I just didn't, I just really didn't want to do it. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I guess why bring work into your hobby?
Well, yeah.
Kind
it's
of.
just, because I know they'd come down and talk to me. I just didn't want the grief, So and there's so much material out there. I could easily avoid it. So, But now, yes, I'm free to do PCB stuff as I've done, and I'm free to do FPGA stuff, which I'm getting into occasionally. So, it's all good.
So then, were you going to ask anything?
Yeah. Well, I was just going to mention that I think it's very good that you have such a strong voice out there, sort of keeping these guys more honest. I think that's a really useful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's sort of set a new sort of benchmark in the industry almost. It's like, people are free to say what they want. These companies have traditionally controlled all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you had a problem with a product, you went to them and you talked to them, and they would quietly fix it, and the rest of the industry wouldn't know. Whereas now with this, social media like you guys and myself, we're free to publish anything we want to very large audiences, and they've got no say in it. So they have to react differently now. It's a totally different ball game.
The consumer actually has a voice.
They have a voice, and it is a different ball game. And a lot of them are scared. A lot of them don't know how to deal with it. A lot of them ignore it. Some of them actually latch onto it and, oh, look, we can be proactive and actually respond. And then, that's a good thing. So
I think it was interesting because actually, I don't know, like a few weeks ago, there were some people mentioning this guy who had dissected a product that claimed to increase, like car gas fuel efficiency.
Mileage, yes. We talked about that on the Amp Hour a couple of weeks ago. We exposed one of those.
Right. Well, so, I'm not sure if it was you guys or it might have been from the forums, and how somebody from that company had threatened the person with legal action.
Yeah.
Was that the same
That's
guy?
exactly the same one we talked about, and that was on my forum. Yeah. One of the users there, I forget his name. Yeah, he did a web page exposing this device as a complete and utter fraud, which it is.
Yeah.
And and the guy was got his lawyers onto him, and then got onto him personally. Started to attack him personally and threaten him with all sorts of stuff, blackmail him that we're going to sue you for $100,000 in damages, and he rightly just laughed at him and totally ignored him, and they went away. So
now, have you ever had to deal with anything like that because of your product reviews?
Not As yet, no.
Well, good.
I'm probably expecting it one day that I'll get a cease and desist letter from some lawyer, and I'll do the same thing. Well, I'll tear it up on air and just laugh in their face.
Yep.
We're getting to the point where being in a position like Dave is in is more recognizable to public affairs, public relations departments, where they realize that somebody that has, I imagine, probably 11,000 subscribers or so,
11,000, something like that. Yep.
You can't give somebody like that a cease and desist without calling them first, because if you do, you are shooting yourself in the foot.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, you better believe it. And I won't hold back. I've got no fear. So, which may get me into deep shit one day. But sorry about the S word again.
Please.
That's just my nature. I can't help it. I will.
No, and that's very honorable. Really, I think if more people were able to get over the fear of that sort of retribution from, PR departments, I think the products that we would get would be so much better. They would be made in the US or made in Australia,
Yeah.
Based on what we would actually want instead of.
And based on real user feedback. And I've had there's probably 4 or 5 cases now where companies have actually redesigned or reconsidered their products based on my review or a rant or something else I've done. So,
that's great.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. So
otherwise, they would have just swept it under the carpet, which is the usual way they handle things.
Right.
They might fit. Engineering companies generally aren't bad. If something's wrong with their product, they will fix it, but they'll fix it eventually, and they usually won't recognize the issue and won't tell anyone who's already got the existing product and stuff like that. So it's just not worth it to them. But now it is. When you're exposed, you have to respond. Otherwise, you look bad.
Right.
One thing that I am sort of uncomfortable with in the way that things have gone over the last, I guess it'd be 20, 30 years now, is build quality. You look at anything that was built back before everything started to get really small. And because they were forced to do things in a bigger, beefier method, there's all that technology still is around and functioning today in a lot of stuff that you might find on eBay or whatnot. And
true. I mean,
I don't think stuff that is coming out today is going to be functioning in 30 years from now. I think it's all going to be in garbage dumps.
Well, a lot of that comes down to it is true in some manner but that is sort of dictated not because they deliberately design them poor quality. It's just that a lot of the componentry is so much smaller these days. So you have issues with long-term, if the silicon, if the geometry on the silicon is so small, then they're obviously not going to be as reliable in 30 years' time. You get this, all this, growth on the silicon, and it migrates and does all sorts of weird things over decades, and the smaller the components and the geometry and that sort of stuff, the less robust they become. That's just almost a rule, really. So I don't like to say it's unavoidable, but it's not a deliberate thing. I mean, in some cases, you can say a lot of products are better made these days. The quality control is a lot better because they're assembled by reflow soldering machines, which is a much better controlled than hand soldering back in the day or whatever. So.
There's also the element to it where if you get a hold of a piece of equipment that's from, say, the late 60s, early 70s, and it's still functioning, and you're using that as your rule, oh, look at this old stuff, still works great, but you got to remember that piece of equipment happened to be one of the the one thing that was so perfect that it happened to make it all the way forward for you to be able to look at it and say, oh, isn't this great? It's still around. For every one of those, there was, 150 that ended up in a dump.
Ended up on the junk heap because they're garbage. Yeah, exactly.
Now, I say that because I know you like ripping apart oscilloscopes, and the one that I've got here is a 70s Japanese build.
Yep.
BK Precision, an old analog scope.
Oh, okay. It's a BK Precision.
Yeah, it's I like it. It's a single channel. It just does what I need it to do and nothing else. And if I wanted to get in there, I've got the whole schematic and it's all big old resistors and whatnot.
Yep. How much does it weigh?
Oh, it's not, because it's a single channel and
It's only a single channel, yeah.
CRT.
Okay.
It's not very. It's a deep unit, but it's not very large.
Right.
It's maybe 10 inches wide and 7 inches tall, and
Maybe 7 kilograms.
yeah.
Got it. Because a lot of the weight in those old products is the sheer amount of lead in the solder. You know, they had so many solder joints. You know, like I just tore down my Tech 225 scope, and that's one of my latest videos. And just it's got like 1,000 resistors in it, and each one of those has to have a big lump of lead for the soldering the component lead on it, and all that stuff adds up. It's still reasonably lightweight, but I think many of the old TV sets back in the day, they were very heavy because they had a ridiculous amount of lead solder in them. So, and of course, lead's not light.
Right.
It all adds up.
And actually, speaking of your latest dissection, what are the most important things to you when you dissect a product? Would you say?
Oh, most important. I look at a whole range of things. I look at how well the PCB is laid out, the quality of the components used, if they're name brand parts or they're just generic grey market brand chips, or they're how the artistry involved in the layout of the board's quite important to me, and the layout of the internals, how easily accessible things are. Is it easy to take out? Are they using quality plastics and not some cheap brittle ABS plastic? Is it a nice tough impact resistant polymer plastic or something like that? There's lots of
impact resistant for sure.
Yeah. There's lots of little subtle things I couldn't probably tell you off the top of my head. It's almost subconscious. As I go around and cast my eye over it. And
sure.
Yep.
And is that just mainly from like your experience in designing?
Yeah, that's experience in designing products, opening products, just, over the last 25, 30 years or something. So, yeah.
That's a pretty cool skill to have. Because I know, I'm a noob in electronics, and I'm only now just starting to recognize certain aspects or certain components in there and how they work in a schematic.
Yep.
And, now it's like when I look at a schematic, I can automatically recognize, depending on the schematic, of course, like what certain things are doing. And, it's just kind of, it's now ingrained in how I look at things. And so I think it's really cool that you can do it on kind of the whole system level.
The holistic is the wank word there.
There you go. There you go. Holistic
wank word. I like that.
It's called something else in the US. We actually call it a wank word here. What's it called over there? Is it called a weasel word, isn't it, or something?
We have a vast vernacular for trying to indicate that somebody is full of crap.
Right. They're just using big words to impress, huh?
Yeah.
I can't use big words. I'm not that well, educated as a wordsmith. So
I think wank word works perfectly. I think that is a good way of saying it.
Well, I'm impressed either way. So then besides all of this stuff, do you have any other projects that you're working on, like your own hobby electronics or what have you?
I've always got hobby projects. I've never stopped as long as I can remember, really. And there's always like half a dozen of them.
Sure.
At going on at once, and I chop and change between them. It's part of my short attention span. Just last week, I'm working on this little power supply project. It's quite neat, and I'm going to finish this one this time, and all of a sudden, no, just a couple of days ago, I got this, I'll just do this little thing, and, I'll go off and do this little side project, and it'll only take me 2 days,
Sure.
And you just,
We're
So I've
the
got
same
projects.
way on that. That's where our
You and Whisker
video.
are pretty much
Yeah.
That's where the idea for our video show came from, because it's like we have just an endless amount of content if we just remember to bring out the camera and record all the stuff that each little tiny bit of progress that we get. It may take a year to finish this project, but by golly, we got something done here. Okay, there's a short video. Next thing.
I blame the internet and the communications revolution. I really do. Because back when I was a kid, you didn't have all these distractions. You just worked on your project and you finished it because there were fewer distractions.
Sure.
Now it's like, the internet's so full of information, and look at this new part that's just popped up. Wow, I can build a project around that, and off you go.
That is exact. I can hear it echoing in this house. Whisker will see a product and he'll be like, I think I could totally make something cool out of this. Or he'll say, I have a good idea. And I'm like, oh, God. Oh, God. What is it this time?
It's a wonder I ever finish and I've ever finished anything. But, yeah.
So besides...
It's terrible.
Well, that's it's a constant stream of creativity. That's okay.
It is.
The inverse can be true with the net, though. If you structure things correctly so that the net, instead of being a force to distract you, can be a force to keep you
focused
on task. Like if you've got 11,000 people waiting for your next video, there's a little bit of pressure there to make sure that you get it done.
Very true.
So besides the power supply, what else you got going on? Half finished, unfinished, never finished. I'm all open to that.
I've got a couple of power supply projects because a lot of my stuff is test gear. I have a test gear fetish. Most of the projects I've had published in the magazines over the years are test gear. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal is there. I just like test gear for some reason. Sure. I've got my Mark II scientific calculator watch project.
Oh yeah, I did see a picture of that.
Yes, there's more mock-up pictures of it coming in the latest edition of the Pulse magazine. Okay. I think it's edition 18 or something. It might be a couple of issues away, but and once again, I was all keen on that, and then I got distracted on yet another power supply project, and then got distracted on something else. But I really want to finish that. But the problem is you've got to actually sit down and spend the time to do the hard yards,
Yeah.
Because it's really easy coming up with the ideas and you play around with the concepts, but when you actually have to go through with it and lay out the board, which can be fun, sometimes I'll lay out the board and it'll just stop there because, that was a fun layout. Mm-hmm. And, right, that was good. I achieved something. But I didn't actually get it manufactured. But when you got to get it manufactured and then you've got to do a couple of spins, then you've got to write the software for it and all that sort of stuff, you've got to do those hard yards. And then if you want to do a kit, if you want to sell the thing.
Right.
Which I enjoy having other people, build my stuff. So, I do feel as though I need to make a kit available or something. Mm-hmm. So, and then that takes a lot of effort to actually, find all the manufacturers, get them at the lowest prices, the best availability and all that sort of stuff. And it's not fun work, really.
And by the time you're done, you see that the manufacturer has another thing that you could potentially make another product out.
Exactly. So you respin it with, or you go on to something else, and it's just never ending. So, yeah.
Fair enough.
It's a tough business, electronics, when you've got to do the hard yards to bring something to production. So my hat's off to anyone who actually goes through and actually gets a full kit produced, because I know how much work is involved.
Yep. And what kits? I know you've sold some kits before. Are you still selling them now?
I'm still selling my little microcurrent adapter, which is a little adapter for multimeters. I'm sold out at the moment, but I've got to rebuy those. And it's, people go, when are you getting your latest, when are you going to restock that kit? Oh, when I get the enthusiasm to go and reorder the parts and arrange assembly. And yeah.
I think a lot of people don't realize how much time can go into just trying to source parts.
Yeah.
Whenever
it's
we're getting ready to put together a project here, I mean, it probably takes just as much time to just find the cheapest source of everything you need as it does to actually build the thing.
Oh yeah,
If not
for
more.
sure.
If not more.
If not more,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yep.
It's crazy, but yes, but I do want to finish this calculator watch because I just want one for myself. So that's the
Sure.
driving factor. So
Just in case you have something that you need to calculate on your way to the grocery
Exactly.
store or something.
Yeah, that was the
And it's like-
that was the motivation behind my SID chip organ. It was just something I wanted because I want it, and it happens to be extremely popular topic amongst YouTube. So people like watching
SID
that kind
chip
of
is
stuff.
in the Commodore SID
Yeah,
chip.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
I took a Hammond organ from the 50s and hacked into its keyboards and created my own key scanner and used that with a microcontroller to actually do all the register changes to make music on the SID.
Right.
Yep.
Awesome.
Fun stuff.
One of the things with projects I've found is that back when I was a kid, I would just if I wanted like a new power supply or something, I would just build it up. I'd lash it up on VeroBoard or something, and I'd use an off-the-shelf case, and I'd drill the holes, and I'd label it myself, and I'd just build it, and it was kind of like a one-off. Whereas I found over the years, I've found myself slowly drifting away from that. If I want something, I go, well, I want it to look good too, and I want it to be, the best assembly technique I can get. So I'll put all this effort into, using a PCB as the front panel and choosing the right parts. And I find that really complicates the project, whereas the circuit is sort of some little tiny detail thing. It's all about how it's physically built and assembled and constructed and all that sort of stuff. That's where I spend a lot of my time, choosing the right knob or choosing the right pot, because it's got to be right angle, it's got to mate with the board, and the boards have to be this and that, and they've got to assemble in the correct way, and it's messy.
I wonder if that sometimes limits people, though. I mean, because like you said, when you're a kid, you have the circuit, you want to make it work, you just stick it in a box, you drill the holes, bam, done, it works.
Done, bang.
Right? But then as you grow older, and like, especially if you sell kits and if you've had yourself in that mentality for a project, then it starts, I don't even know, polluting maybe? Kind of like, yeah, it looks nice, but it takes 3 times longer to get it done because, that knob just isn't fat enough, Like, I need to find one that actually is just the right fit, and I don't know.
I actually enjoy doing that. I find that very enjoyable from the design aspect, as opposed to just, finding the cheapest part to kit up. That's a bit of the boring aspect. But if I can design something that just fits in a perfect off-the-shelf case and the boards all go together with just a millimeter to spare, and it's just, I find a bit of artistry in that. So
Sure.
I'm quite proud when I actually design something that just fits in an off-the-shelf box and it's all beautiful. And
Well, and if you had to ever review it yourself, you would be okay with it.
Exactly. So, yeah.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
Dave's got one of the most you're your worst.
Critic?
Yeah,
Critic.
and
I am.
Dave
I know.
in particular has a really bad critic looking over his shoulder himself.
That's why I wonder why I ever got a single video blog out. That was a conscious decision I made right from the very first video is, right, I am not going to critique my own video. I'm just going to press upload. I edit, I don't even review it, and I press upload. And that's, because if I knew from day one, my first video, that if I critiqued it and tried to, I'd go, oh, that's not quite right. I didn't quite mean to say that. I should have said it differently, and I'd go back and reshoot it, and I'd never produce anything.
Right.
So,
Right.
Yeah,
And I think
Yeah.
that's actually
we're the same.
Yep.
It's whatever happens, and
happens
right to the
exactly. And
camera.
if you make a mistake and you embarrass yourself, who cares?
Yeah, it's
Well,
just
'cause-
something funny for the audience.
Exactly.
right. Some content is better than none, I think.
Yeah.
in that case, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And and it seems to have worked for me. So I'm not changing my formula at all. Even after 207 odd videos or something, I still don't review it after I do it. I just I edit, slap together and press upload and hope it works.
That's great.
And there's no script, of course. When I'm doing a product review, I won't. I might have a few things, like a couple of notes of a few little issues I found, just so that I don't forget them. So I actually remember to mention them if I've been playing with it, during some random times or something. But I'll just sit down and go, right, I'm going to review this, and I literally just open it up and and my thoughts come out as you see them on the video. That's pretty much, how it is. So. And it turns out some cases, I actually miss stuff. I actually forget to do things, and that happens almost every time. But
you usually go back, though. You usually go back and you say, "Oh, I forgot to mention this," et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And you do anything like that on a regular basis, you just get really good at it compared to anyone else. I mean, you're judging yourself against yourself, and that's a very unfair judgment. You take any average guy who may know endless amounts of stuff about the topic, you stick a camera in his face, he's going to sound like he doesn't know anything because he doesn't have that particular skill. You've got the skill of being able to just stream out that endless flow of thoughts on a topic and the technical knowledge to go behind it.
Yeah, I still don't think I'm very good at it, though. I'm a bit harsh on myself. I still don't think I'm as good as, because always afterwards I think, that was a poor way to explain it, Why did I do it that way or say that thing or something like that? But whatever. It's very rare that I would go back and I would actually re-record something. If I'm actually doing the edit, only if it's completely wrong or something. If I completely and utterly screwed it up and it's obvious,
sure.
Then because it's just too much hassle, You've got to get out there, and if I'm on camera and I've got to get the same T-shirt, and I say so it's continuity, so people don't realise that I'm, I've edited this after the fact.
We had a wardrobe change here between Dave the Diva. I like it. I like it.
So if occasionally if I'm doing one of those big reviews, I will actually, instead of, after I've finished filming for the day, and I think I've shot it all, I won't throw the shirt in the wash. I'll just keep the dirty shirt there just in case I forgot something and I've got to go back and reshoot it.
That's great.
Here's the reality of making your living off of being a video blogger. But these are the tricks.
Just scattered everywhere.
Always keep your last shirt handy.
How does your wife feel about that?
She's not. If I'm not, I've got to specifically tell her that one is for continuity, and so leave it there. Don't pick it up and put it in the clothes basket and wash it.
That's great. I love it. So
that's, as I said, that's fairly rare. I do that.
Fair enough.
So you've had a pretty big change in your production schedule the last few months, I imagine, with the new family member.
New addition, little Sagan. Yes,
super cute. Oh man,
have you seen photos?
Yes, I've seen video.
Oh. He wasn't that cute on the video, because children and animals. They tell you not to work with children and animals, right? In show business. Am I in show business? I don't. Anyway, it's because you get him on. He was all smiling 5 minutes before and big-eyed, and and then you put him in front of the camera, and it's like, just nah.
No,
he's completely out of it.
Super cute. One, because you're like, any ranty side that you had to you disappears once you have Sagan in your arms, and I think that is just the cutest thing.
Right. Okay. Yep. You noticed that, did you? Was that?
I did. Yep.
Right.
So,
calling you out on it.
Scope manufacturers, if you just attach a baby to your oscilloscope, when you send them for review,
I'm going to be kinder and gentler.
No drop test.
Right. Oh boy.
So
I can't believe the people at Tektronix actually thought I dropped their $30,000 scope. I don't know if you've seen that, but I actually dropped at the end of the video. I dropped their $30,000 scope.
You did.
So, well, I did on camera. Yes.
Is that the one with the sound effect and the funny face?
I did physically drop it. Yes. But it didn't hit the concrete floor. So it's. But I can't believe they thought I would actually do it. They were so worried. Oh.
You know, though, that's a good testament to how trustworthy your review is, though, if you think about it, because they believe that you will totally do something like that.
Exactly.
You know, and so somewhere in somebody's brain, like one of their engineers is thinking, crap, if Dave Jones gets a hand on this, I'm gonna have to make sure it stays intact when it gets dropped. Hey, you know, more, you know, a sturdier product for the rest of us. No complaints.
And you never know.
Well, they weren't originally going to let me tear it down. They were scared that I would break it.
Oh.
Seriously, that was their, you know, Tektronix would not let me tear it down. And I finally talked them into it. I say, hey, you know, if you don't let me tear this thing down, it's going to look bad on you guys. So
right.
I highly recommend you let me tear it down. Trust me, I'm a professional.
Right. Well,
They finally relented.
And do you usually put them back all together into a functional
I
unit?
usually put them all back together, yes.
I guess.
And there's usually no screws left over.
Excellent. Ah, crap.
I'm sure the guys at Tektronix would not appreciate just getting a box back full of burnt parts.
Oh, boy. Yep.
So then do you have...
I think they were quite disappointed in that review. I think Tektronix was secretly disappointed. They didn't say so, but they were hoping for, you know, a lot better review than what I gave. Well, you know, if you want a better review, design a better product.
Yep. Well, $30,000. My gosh, you better be getting diamonds in that thing.
Exactly.
You know, diamond-encrusted resistors. Sorry.
What pushes the cost of those things up so high?
Oh, they use, especially the RF side of things, they use very prime spec components. Like just an RF relay alone will cost $100 just on its own.
Wow.
You know, things like that. Some super gain RF transistor that's, you know, manufactured by nude virgins in you know, and then individually hand calibrated by some guy with a big grey beard. You know, some of those components can cost hundreds of dollars each.
Jeez. So that's what.
Yeah, it all adds up. It's not easy to, you know, manufacture. Actually manufacture an oscilloscope that has a front end bandwidth of 1 gig. So that's just the way it is.
All right, enough lollygagging. We've got serious business to cover here before we run out of time.
What's this lollygag?
You've never heard?
No, I haven't heard this one.
Lollygagging is... what's a...
Talking bullshit?
No, just...
yapping on?
Talking about things that don't necessarily matter.
Right, yep.
Right, so now we're getting to the real questions.
That's the entire Amp Hour podcast.
So now we're actually getting to the real questions, because all those other ones were
a
warm-up. Yeah. So
excellent. Well, we've only got like 12 minutes left.
Yeah, I know.
All right, go, Eddie.
Okay, so... well...
There's actually a list of questions.
Well, kind of. It's a informal, nebulous sort of thing.
Nebulous, another wank word.
Yep. So, my one question that I wanted to ask, well, definitely ask, was, what is one misconception your audience might have about you?
Oh, I've never been asked that. You should have given me these questions beforehand.
I like the instantaneous reaction.
Well, of course, you've got the idiots on YouTube. YouTube is full of, you know, YouTube's a breeding ground for those types who all think that I'm bought off by the advertisers. No, I mean by the companies who, you know, send me the products for a review. And it's like, oh, you got to be kidding me. You know, I spend half my review telling you every bad thing I can find about the product, and you still think that I'm that I'm somehow, you know, bought off by them? Well,
right.
Give me a break. misconception. Yeah, I don't know. That's probably... I can't think of anything else. Sorry.
Nope, that's fine. That's a perfect... Yeah. So, guys, girls, he's not bought off. Not unless it's
not at all.
Diamond encrusted
the problem with me is that I've always been this way about everything. Ever since I was a kid, I will always speak my mind regardless of what trouble it gets me in. Even if I've got an advertiser on my website who is, paying me, money and making my living from it, if they give me a bad product, I'm going to say if they give me a shit product, I'm going to say it's shit. I just can't help myself.
Yep.
It's just what I do.
Nope,
cool. I will shoot myself in the foot every time. It's one of my traits.
Well, the good thing about this is that when the zombie apocalypse comes and you're still the it guy for product reviews, like zombie killing machines, zombie killing security, whatevers, you will still be reliable even then.
Yeah, Australia is going to end up rebuilding their civilization based around the Dave Jones quality assurance system. So when we reestablish contact between our colonies, they're going to have much better reception over there because of Dave.
Cool. Right. All right, sounds good. Okay, so now to the questions that I usually ask everybody.
Oh, okay.
Yes. What 3 tools would you take to your zombie apocalypse bunker?
See, I don't know much about this zombie apocalypse thing. I'm not nerdy enough. But I can, the world's filled with zombies, right?
Yep,
and if they bite you, you turn into a zombie, and that's how it works, right?
Yep. Or you just get eaten and then you're dead.
Whichever. You just don't want to be around the zombies, obviously.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
3 tools? What 3 tools?
Yeah.
Well, you got to have a multimeter.
Okay.
I'm not surprised that Dave would take a multimeter.
You've got to have a multimeter.
Don't you have a bin of multimeters?
I do.
All right. Okay. For you, I would actually assume that your bunker already has 20 multimeters and 10
it's a fully kitted out lab
and 10 oscilloscopes. Because those 2, I can almost guarantee you will want to bring.
Instead of a good book at night, Dave's just going to take apart oscilloscopes and put them back together and bitch at them.
So, besides a multimeter and oscilloscope, 50,000 assembled by virgins in God knows where, what would you take besides those 2?
Well, what is the best weapon to kill a zombie?
Well,
we've already established that alligators do a pretty good job. Or here in Australia, it's crocodiles, right?
Right. Well,
we've had quite a bit of debate over many episodes of various people going in different directions with picking which weapon they would bring.
Yeah.
I believe Chris Gamble said that he would bring a shotgun, Cheetos, and beer.
Yep, those are his 3 tools.
Right, there is 3 things. Okay. But how much ammo does he have? It's an apocalypse.
You can't really resource that. It's you gotta ask yourself: Do I want a gun that requires bullets, or do I want a long stick that I don't need a lightsaber?
Oh, okay.
Now you have to be able to build this, so you might need to call up Alan Yates and get some help with the whole lightsaber design.
That's fine.
Yeah, well, you guys are.
I'm sure between you and Alan, you guys could come up with like a Sydney lightsaber company.
Yep. And the good thing about the lightsaber is if you screw up the design and you can't actually get the energy to stop like at the 1 meter distance, so it's actually a sword, then it just becomes then it just becomes an energy gun, like a blaster. So, even if you can't quite figure out how to get it to stop at that 1, I don't know, how long is a lightsaber typically?
Oh, it's got to be like 3 feet.
So 1
3
meter,
feet?
Yeah.
Like that in American speak, which is about a meter.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so a meter long. So if you can't quite, if you're there in your bunker and the zombie apocalypse is coming, beating down your door and you're still trying to tweak this thing, trying to get it to work, then, well...
Wait a minute, excuse me. Excuse me, zombie. I've got some calibrations to do here.
That's right.
All right, so we got a lightsaber that may or may not work as a lightsaber.
If not, it's a pretty darn good energy blaster.
Right,
So,
right.
fine.
And then,
Yep.
so what other two things then?
Do you need anything more than that? Just kill all the zombies and everything's fine.
I guess, but how long is that going to take you?
The population density around there is pretty high. Yeah, your arms would get really tired.
Around where? Here in Australia?
Yeah, well, around where you are, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, it's the suburbs, you know.
Yeah.
So it's fairly average, I guess.
All right, so
But then,
you're
then
basically...
you can go to the centre of Australia where there's nothing. You know, there's one person per every 10,000 square kilometres.
So you're pretty safe there then.
So
I think so.
You think that you would drive inland?
You almost certainly would. You would start heading for the mountains and then drive inwards. Yep.
Okay.
Now, do you think you would...
That's always the plan here in these coastal cities, you know.
I've always wondered, would you go inland and south just so that it's more temperate?
I am already sort of in the south sort of area of, you know, Australia. So I would just head west. That's, you know, pretty much it. Maybe a little bit north.
Yeah, it doesn't get stupid hot where you are.
No, it doesn't.
No, like Brisbane or something.
Brisbane? Try Darwin.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Have you been to Darwin?
No.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
I've got plenty of friends in Brisbane and Sydney, so I have a general idea of those regions. But
Right.
I would probably head closer to Tasmania, but that's because we're Minnesotan. You know, up here. It's,
A
you know,
lot of people say that Tasmania is already full of zombies. So
Patient zero.
sorry,
Great.
Tasmanian listeners. But it's a standard joke we have to play. You know, we make jokes about New Zealanders, Tasmanians, and Yanks,
Yep.
and that's
Gotcha.
they're our three staples. So
Gotcha. Okay, let me see. So I asked the tools. What's one book, the most important book you would take to your bunker?
The Art of Electronics. No, that's lame, right?
We've had
other people have mentioned
yeah,
it.
we've had people.
Is there a
mention
dummy's
that book.
guide to zombie killing?
You know,
See, 'cause I'm pretty new at this, you know.
Jeremy
I don't want to learn on the job.
Jeremy Blum suggested that after we get enough of these interviews done for the show, we should compile the collected knowledge into said book.
Yep.
Right.
Because we talk to people
maybe we'll get one
that have just the best ideas about how to actually go about, you know, rebuilding society after such a thing.
I'm sorry I don't have much to add here. I haven't really thought about the zombie apocalypse before. It's not really high on my thought radar.
That's okay. That's all right. That's why we're here. We're here to warn everybody and
educate.
exactly.
And it's really just a metaphor, you know.
That's what he says.
Well, that's what I say. She thinks the zombies are going to eat everyone's
inevitable.
brains.
Didn't you
I
hear my
just think
introduction?
it's a convenient metaphor to discuss sustainability, open source hardware, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Poobah. It's true. Believe it.
Well, I wouldn't take a book. I'd take my Kindle.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
Now, does your Kindle store books? It stores a lot of books, doesn't it?
Yeah, it can store like 100,000 books or something.
I see. So you don't
But then,
need the
if
cell
the
network.
internet, is it a given that the internet is still operational during
No.
the zombie apocalypse?
Depends
No.
on if you're a ham or not. I
Yeah.
guess would be the real
Oh, yeah.
answer.
If you're a ham, you can get it, but if not, you're in the dark.
So the Amazon server could go down. So you want to download
Correct.
all the books before it actually. Yep.
Okay. Well, Kindle, that works. That kind of bypasses
Kindle-
the one book required.
Does. Yeah, it's like when people ask, what would you take to a deserted island? What one thing? Well, freaking internet connection.
Please, I am here at this location. Google Map me. You'll find me.
Yeah,
Or just
that's
Skype
actually,
me.
that is actually an incredibly smart thing to bring. I never thought about bringing an internet connection.
If
You
you
haven't?
see a
I thought it
tweet,
was given.
No, I haven't. I guess not. I just think
Wow.
it's like a water purifier or something.
Oh, no, too old school.
we talked a little bit about how to get power back and how to rebuild computer technology from simple scavengeable components. but we haven't gotten to the point where we've talked about how to reestablish digital communications on a global scale. That will have to be a show unto itself.
Yes, that's tough. Maybe it starts with that. We need to expand that open source. I can't remember the name for it, but there's an open source toolkit for when the world has, gone.
Is there?
Blasted its smell. Yeah, we talked about this on the Amp Hour.
The Open Ecology Project.
That could be it. Open Ecology, is it? Where, there's these blueprints, there's these plans for manufacturing all these machines, combine harvesters and, all sorts of things that would actually build civilization up again after an apocalypse. That's the idea behind it.
Yeah.
And it's all open source. All the plans are, and there's people actually building these things. It's great. They've got 50. I think there's 50 machines they've earmarked that will get civilization back, started again after some apocalypse. So
cool.
It's come up a few times.
It's actually out there. People are planning for this stuff.
We're very glad that somebody out there is doing it, because this is being a metaphor. It's very useful to talk about this stuff in the context of the metaphor, but when you leave the metaphor, what you can do is apply it to other situations like developing economies, etc.
Yeah.
Because if you're trying to rebuild society, Western society after a zombie apocalypse, it's all the problems that you would have to solve in that hypothetical conversation are the same problems that you have to solve in a literal context. If, say, you're creating a remote outpost for your AM radio station to extend your coverage, or to getting a very poor village up and running so that they can manufacture their own goods, do their own water purification, all that sort of thing. It applies all across the thing. It's basically just a way to talk about real engineering in a fun context.
That's what he says.
And Eddie just thinks that the zombies are going to eat us all.
Not me. What are you talking about? I'm prepared.
Well, if it happens, who is the best people to tackle it? Engineers. Obviously.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure. No doubt about it.
Engineers and folks that are into manufacturing. So, engineering is very important, but you also need people that know how to actually make things. Sometimes you lose the physical world when you get too far into the theory.
Yeah.
Please tell me that marketing would not make a comeback after the zombie apocalypse.
I'd like to think that we could all work together to stop that from being so important.
Excellent.
Yeah.
But, humans are humans.
Unfortunately, yeah.
All right, I think that wraps up our hour, unfortunately.
No way.
Kind of would have liked to go on about the global digital communications network that you could put together. But, we'll save it for another time. Maybe one of these days we could get you and Chris on at the same time.
Absolutely.
We could do that.
Cool.
And let's see. You can find Dave's stuff on YouTube. Your EEVBLOG, is that right?
Blog.
Yep.
EEV blog. Correct.
Yeah. And if you're not subscribed to him already, you're in the minority. You can also listen to Dave go off on rants all the time, once a week on the Amp Hour with Chris Gamble. You can listen to Chris Gamble's episode that we recorded last week of ZombieTech, in which he made a lot of fun of Dave. And
I'm sure he did. I didn't get to make fun of Chris this week, did I?
No,
we were very careful to steer you away the entire time. Not just from that topic, but several of them. We've got a list, like things to not let Dave talk about.
Right. 3D printing machines.
Home chip printing.
Oh, now that'd be interesting. I'd like to know your thoughts on 3D printing. But would that like go over our 1 hour mark?
Yes, it would. But thank you, Dave, for joining us. We very much appreciate it.
Yep.
And
you're welcome. Thank you for allowing me on your esteemed podcast.
For you listeners out there, you can find this show once every Thursday on tymkrs.com/ZombieTech.
Yep.
See, it needs its own URL.
page.
You've got to do it. Don't be afraid of success.
All right. That's it for me, Eddie.
That's it for me.
All right.
We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.